the death experience that I had. There's two death experiences. One was where I basically died. My heart was stopped, or it stopped, because of many things. They revived me, and I'm pretty sure I fucking got sucked up into a quantum dimensional tube thing. I turned like into a spiral. I popped out of my body, out of my chest, I guess. Chest or forehead, or a combination of both. And I popped out. And I could see almost like a 360-degree vision. And I had no real painful emotions, which I think was a trick because I kind of let go of all my human emotions and was just like, oh, I'm free. I think that's the first step of falling asleep. That the first thing we do if we get out of the body is remain lucid, which is their fucking Luciferian system, by the way. That's the shit they talk about. But is to remain lucid to the point where it's like we went into a dream world, and instead of going into a dream and forgetting we're dreaming, we stay lucid and we don't get swept away in the experience. I think after the body, after death, that's what we do to remain awake in the soul and the spirit. I kind of fell asleep right after that death experience. This is a true down-to-earth, not a machine, not a trick, not a hallucination, revived, beepy things, fucking defibrillators, whatever you want to call them. Fucking stab epinephrine. I was only dead for like less than a minute. But, I got sucked up into a tube. I don't remember a bright flash of light, but I have a feeling that there might have been something like that, something that caught my eye, basically froze me as if it were like electromagnetic light fucking grabbing me. And then all of a sudden that ball I was in type shit, it fucking like froze and corkscrewed. Like I turned 90 degrees in 3 different directions, like I was spiraled. And then I just did that through this fucking tube. And it went like all the way out into like space. And I went like the speed of light or like a tunnel. And then I found myself in what I think was basically the moon. That sounds fucking stupid, but I have other reasons that probably weren't hallucinations that kind of make me think that it was a type of recycling plant for souls on the moon. There was even, basically the Egyptian Book of the Dead, they say that it's 2 snakes that lead the front of the boat, the canoe that you're on. The long canoe, by the way, when the soul leaves the body. I felt like I was in a straw, being drawn up like sucked up a straw like through a tube. Like it was suctioned to the one end of me, so if I like try to get out, I just stretch and pull in, like it sucked me up. And I felt like it was being guided by like these eyes, like 2 eyes or a face or something. It felt like that was there kind of smirking back at me, guiding this boat. It felt like it was almost like I was kept in a tractor beam of a UFO. And I have perceptions, so either that was the pilot guiding the UFO, or that was just the front part of the energy of the soul, like they say, maybe the ego, the unconscious ego at that point, and it kind of seems like another essence, like who's guiding me, taking me on this path. Maybe it's just the brain and the ego, or maybe that when we die, these entities come around in their craft and beam us with that fucking light, catch us in a fucking tractor beam, pull us into it, and then fly us to the fucking moon to basically be pushed into a recycling plant, which basically begins with a void that we can't get out of by traveling spiritually, or physically spiritually, if you would. We can't walk our spiritual body out of there. You have to basically build a portal with love and open your heart chakra up, envelop yourself in this love field, and close it back down and go into the field as it goes. And you make a portal, then you can go wherever you think. Apparently that's how we travel in the universe outside the body. Apparently that's the big secret of how to get out, get anywhere, or get, I guess, out of their grasps, their system. But that was going on, I guess, 2 parts there, where that was the one death experience, and I think I got fucking sucked up into a moon trap, into a light trap. And that's the trick of the light.
And so basically, consciousness is entangled in a lower spectrum of experiences, which is the physical plane. And for this to lead anywhere, it has to be liberated from the ever-repeating cycles of forgetfulness and attachment to desire and these habits that result basically just from being alive. And they're rooted in desire and fear and ignorance, basically, low self-awareness. It basically the person is either an automaton, if they just allow that to happen, and then the brain is just taken over. That's all it means. Or the person is working towards liberation, and they're moving out of just being basically like a mortal plaything for the system, and it moves into true free will and awareness, and that's basically soul awareness. And so the system is designed to hold people back, but if it's based on, I think the original ones were based upon realizing the trap of lower awareness and getting out. Somewhere along the line, they say power transferred. There was a contract between star races, and the whole idea with that is that it's, in my humble opinion, energetic, holographic, multi-dimensional existence versus like space and void and different times and things like that. It's all temporal dimensional. It's not the solid version that people want us to think. For instance, and there's also a deception. The two sides are split. I'm not mentioning it, but flat Earth and round Earth. Okay, well, he said we went to the moon, blah, 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 therefore he's BS disinfo right there. Not talking about me or anything, but I've heard this said. Well, because you're a flat earther, right? And all the 12 tribes of Israel and the sun, moon, blah, 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 right? And Bible, devil. All right, well, the moon and the sun are supposed to be in the firmament. So right there, that doesn't make sense if you say, we can't go to the moon because it's flat and there's in a dome. Well, all of that stuff is in the firmament, though, or at least not the planets that are out, trans-Neptunian and all that stuff, but the sun and the moon are supposed to be in the firmament along with the stars. So a lot of people don't even know what they're talking about when they're just, and that's the point, that it's just to get them to fight each other. And it's really interesting stuff because something is going on, obviously. The point is, it's frequencies of consciousness and mind, and it's temporal. It's like trans-temporal, multidimensional. Either way, so previously, the first rulers of civilization, where they kind of know what they're doing, and they're telling you, think this way, feel that way, knowing that's going to lead into a certain non-physical shell of energy that is the afterlife. And it could have been, they knew it was a kind of lower awareness was a type of trap system, and they knew how to rise out of it. Somewhere along the line, there was a contract between races of non-terrestrials, which in my mind is literally just people that were here, that more or less ascended to the four-dimensional level of accessing time-space through either technology or whatever it was, and basically came back to enact the same type of ascension principles, but ascension is corrupted and all that stuff is like controlled, media-controlled words and stuff like that, like agendas. But when that happens normally, it's like, okay, it's us, in a way, trying to help us out. Something happened, and somehow the people in power decided to say, F it, F the whole system, whatever it is, just shove it somewhere. We're going to be as bad as we can, help basically only our specific select crew from, to navigate out of this place. And even then, the majority of people that we come in contact with are going to be stuck and trapped here, and we're going to trade their souls. They turned what is supposed to be possibly a way of getting out into a soul trading system. And now the point is, because there's also a discrepancy between, and this is all connected, by the way, the legal system and all that, they don't look at it like name, they look at it like soul, this prayer, how many souls did you get this year? And money is the basis for that. They not like, well, how much money can we get? No, it's like, how much can you convince them it's about money so that they walk into our traps and we get their souls? Because they don't need money for what they do. Again, there's a little bit of a discrepancy against whether the original system was like a school and we're meant to experience these things and rise out of these trap systems, or whether the whole thing is a trap to begin with and there is no way to look at it positively because it was born out of an illusion from a fallen god who mimicked the original planes and basically dropped down into frequency and just trapped a bunch of souls from whatever higher plane that everyone existed at or in and created this world out of that process of literally, basically, like gangsters stealing souls from the higher dimensions and creating what is, appears to be a playpen, and it's a jail, it's a prison, under the guise of like a preschool or something. And so there's two ways to look at it. And if it is a school, well, guess what? Now, even if it is a school, it's being made into a prison with advanced technology and the way they're controlling people's minds. And so, even then all that means is that we have to convert it back into a school, or it's a school where it's basically like a military academy, or it turned into a prison right now, and the school is either burning down or overrun by gangs, because whichever way you look at it, right now it's not how it should be, but it's not something organic, to put it that way. And it's because the mind creates these levels, and so people's minds have been used to create these artificial levels, which are founded in these symbols and these belief-created gods that are invented as part of these systems. These rulers manage and create and basically use for possession and things like that, and power and war and so if it is a school, then you could look at it, it's almost like the same thing, once again, because you could say, well, right now it's not a school, or excuse me, if it is a prison, then, like, even then if it was a school, you could also say that regardless if somebody was doing something purposely, it's that we're just simply in cycles of higher and low awareness, and it'll, come back around again. If it is a prison, then in the beginning you could say that they knew what was going on, and there was a movement to navigate out of this prison network, but that then maybe the people who were in control of that got targeted and infiltrated by these entities, which you can call them archons, whatever. It's the part of a person's mind that looks at what's happening in the world and doesn't realize that there's a lack of self-awareness, and that if they don't discern between how they're living in their own life and how that relates to that lack of self-awareness, or how it basically begins to cause a increase of self-awareness into what we term an awakening, then basically that's part of this type of sleeper system that is within every sentient being here, that the potential for it is more or less eating this world. Because if a person stays asleep and lives that way in their life, there's not going to be a big void that just everything dissolves. There's no experience. That's not how it began, so that's not how it's going to end. Oh, but I can't, when I was born, I didn't. Yes, you did, you just don't remember. Go to a certain place and they'll teach you how to remember. It doesn't mean just because you don't know, there's nothing there. And as well, say, what does happen as far as they exist afterwards, but they didn't show themselves, okay, the soul didn't show themselves in the body, then the body it's proven, if you will, it's projected after that it's just like a puppet, and the individual, the personality, the person that thinks like, well, I don't have to worry about that stuff, it's all just BS, blah, blah, blah. They basically unfold and unravel, and it's just like a 2D paper sheet, like a cartoon, whereas the soul is actually a higher dimensional, multi-dimensional, extra-dimensional being. And so, excuse me, the whole point of that is that has to be undone. A person has to be or deprogrammed, and once that begins, the fear, the greed, the desire, the tendencies to basically not have the ability to have faith in yourself, the doubt sets in, because people are conditioned to live and think like herd animals and lose that critical thinking aspect. And this all goes down to the system. This is how the system is worked, created, designed intentionally to create it's an enslavement system, but it's a belief system based enslavement system where the people interact and engage emotionally through their beliefs and intentions for certain ideals, and this creates basically these pseudo afterlife realms where more or less they're trapped and then they have to come back, because the truth is that it has nothing to do with basically becoming different or doing something new or anything like that. It's the fact that who you are really, beyond the personality, beyond the mind and the like the lower dimensional stuff, the consciousness, the title and identity, the personal existence and the memories that are basically more or less selective. Who you are beyond that, the actuality of you, doesn't change when you go into another plane, when you go into the plane of mind or spirit. It's literally the same exact guy, it's the same person, same stuff, probably wearing the same clothes. It's not like some spooky or mystical. No, it's literally exactly the same. That's the big secret. That it's literally you that go there, and so it's you that has to be able to navigate and go through these realms and experience the things, because the idea is on the realms outside of this plane, which is anchored physically and collectively, meaning changes are not going to be as drastic, and the mind is not going to be able to go off like you're daydreaming all the time, if you're awake, like being in a daydream and how variance the experience can be, and then somebody wakes you up, you're in class or something, maybe bad analogy. Like think of now, imagine trying to go back into the dream state and feel you can't because you're in a collective reality. So the point is, when we leave that, we go into a highly subjective, almost like an adventure, and everything we impact, connect with, influence mentally, it makes the plane. It branches off this way into that story, fairy tale, or it branches off this way into that one, or whatever way we're going to go. So the idea is we have to be perfectly neutralized, because it's going to try and pull us in either or direction and get a lean on the trajectory. And in a way, you can say we're trying to go up in a sense. And if we're imbalanced in any sense to the point where what we want to believe is not from our heart, if you will, and which would be centered, and then if it's from the mind, being more or less having a tendency, a habit, a program that is based upon duality, to go from one or the other to fear, or one or the other to pleasure, and what you just want to believe in because that's what you want to believe in, is basically conditioning. It's almost as if you're going up, and then it bends, and you end up going right back down. The only way to actually do it is to be perfectly balanced and neutral, and one of these options, or a vision, or these out-of-body, like demons or angels or whatever it is, these experiences, whatever one it is, it's neither is real. It's literally the only thing that's real is your experience in that place and in this place. Although we're in a collective reality, so of course, you can't jump out of a window and be like, it's not real, it doesn't matter. No, eventually it won't, because whether you walk away and 30 years later you pass on or whatever it is, or you pass on right there, you're going to go to the same place. So guess what? This place and according to that place is the same not realness. It's like a collective physical dream. But once you get into in the same sense, if somebody comes to you and says, here, buy this idea or go with that, and you're afraid, you got to do this way, or you like this, is based upon pleasure, that's who you are, and you want this. Both of those are not real. That's the whole point. In any way, in any plane, the heart, which is not moved by duality, by oppression, by tendencies and habits and programming and desire, basically desires and fears, that's what's real. If it's motivated by desires or fears, or social imprinting, or basically something external telling you it's not real. But the point is, it could be happening, but the you that goes on to believe, this is what I want in life, this is what I'm doing, I'm enjoying this, or what I'm feeling, it's not like your enjoyment isn't real, but eventually it's short-lived if it's not based upon what you really want and what you really know. But the point is, the you that's feeling that is not real. It's a character, it's a mask you put on. It's like a eternal Halloween. Every Halloween, people put on masks and things like that. They know it's not really who they are. But imagine for a year, or for a party, or whatever it is, or for a time on Earth, people put on the mask and they forget that's not who they are. And that's the whole point. If we actually think that's who we are when we try to leave, we reappropriate our energies, our mind, with that world, that projection system, and people can't leave. And that's basically the gist of the situation. I explained it in a very weird way, but I know I have interesting followers, and followers isn't a good word. I have interesting listeners and viewers, and whatnot, because I know a lot of people are going to get it. A lot of people are going to be like, why would you explain it that way, or what does this even mean? But the point is, that's the gist of it, how we're in this place, and the situation, the problem is, we're wearing these temporary masks of personality from an eternal soul, or at least an immortal soul that leads to an eternal, higher dimensional, observer sense or self-awareness, and it got so bad in this 1,000-year Halloween party, whatever civilization is, that everyone forgot we're at a party wearing masks. And they're literally all parading around like this is the real thing. Like everything you would do at a Halloween party or something like that is what you do daily, every day, waking up to bed, for work, out of work, party, whatever, for your life. That's the gist of the situation. It's insanity. It's a cosmic insanity. And it relates to the parasitic infection, you could call it, and all of that. And it really relates, when you look at it just the way I've said it, that it's just mind and ego getting out of balance and out of whack to the point where we're trying to become something we're not, and on a cosmic scale it's undoing us, and it's wiping our memory over and over again. Beyond the interdimensional realms of electrogravitational craft and absorbing people's consciousness into these other states, and if somebody's actually doing that, or even if not people doing this in factions, but if other entities, or if it's just like the way rain and atmosphere cycles up around the system. I can't remember. There's a cycle that's called moisture cycle, something like that. Excuse me. And so maybe that's just how the accretion energy of consciousness and electromagnetic emissions from the brain and body and what we call the soul cycles and does the same thing. Regardless of whether other beings are doing it or other factions are actually keeping people's souls here or doing things with the moon and recycling. In the moment, in here, it's a system that convinces us that we are the masks, and also convinces us to create masks that have nothing, that basically have the least likelihood of connecting to our actual self. And although it's a kind of misnomer, because no mask has any likelihood of connecting with your actual self. Whether you're dressed up as a boogeyman or dressed up as, a block of wood or something, neither of it is related to you. Although in symbolism there could be, that's kind of, just pushing it and getting down to the details, to the unnecessary details. Although they still count. But the idea is that that's basically what's happening, and it relates to, when you look at it that way, the Gnostic understanding of the demiurge and the original awareness and Sophia, and how it is basically connected to a very organic system, even though within that system there is an inorganic kind of basically like a shadow consciousness that developed from a continual rejection of our more or less our unawareness, to the point where then we became under the control of our unawareness, our lack of awareness, our fears and ignorance, rather than being in control of our fantasies and imaginations and desires and things like that. That's all it means, is that you have stuff, and then you have other things, and they branch out from the original part, and we decide where we go from there. Well, we became so lost and entangled with where we were choosing to go that eventually we're no longer choosing anymore, and we're kind of like stuck running around in these circles, not getting back to that source where we're in control, and realizing that there's a plan, there's an original motion and a completion cycle of everything, of existence, of our consciousness, of our lives, of the soul, of the universe, of everything, of creation, of time, of history, and we're just in these loops endlessly running around, and people are losing energy and forgetting themselves. It's very organic if you look at it that way, without tying in the fact that they developed these systems, and that they're probably, or possibly, I mean, I've seen it, but, are they covering up for a natural system so they can say we're the ones that are kidnapping souls and doing that? And, are they covering up a system where that's just naturally what happens when people are that dense, basically, literally dense, to the point where their consciousness is entangled with energies or concepts that are more related to physicality and cannot be experienced in the other realm without creating an attraction for the physical realm again. Which is a cover, I don't know, but they do have the craft that can do it. The electrogravitic, and they do have the big soul magnets that can do it. And unless they put these stories back in time, which they did put stuff back in time, there are stories of these soul magnets and these grids and wheels, the cosmic or heavenly wheels, and the barrier, the grid between inner and outer space, and all that stuff. It's all been talked about. It's all been done before. The question is whether we're going to be... I've been ranting here for a minute, but I'm about to finish this. The question is whether we're going to be exiting this system, this infinite reincarnation trap system where our energy comes, we experience, we see, we do, we go, and then we come back, and we don't remember a damn thing. If we get better and better as we do that, good. If society is actually degrading, getting worse and worse, and our memories are getting worse and worse, and the likelihood that we'll make it out is getting worse and worse, then it's a trap system. And if we go that way, we're going to turn back into dust. We're going to, and from dust to dust, blah blah blah. That's what it's describing then, if that's what's going on, and it's something that's feeding on people through that.